You get to build stuff when you find the intersection between science, technology, and art is what I think. Science and tech can get you so far. Like you have the rigor and testing of science, you have the innovation of technology, but then you have the creativity and frankly the audacity of like the actual arts. When you are able to make that combination, then you really start to create things.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, disruptors, and creators who are making things happen today. My name is Michael T. Johnson. I'm here with Tyler Kelly. And today we are in Venture Cafe, Miami. So Venture Cafe is the #1 largest gathering of entrepreneurs anywhere in the world. You won't find a larger group of people gathering together who are innovators, disruptors, creators anywhere in the world. So we're very excited to be in Miami today. And we are very excited to have Sam Abbassi with us. So Sam, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So for those of you that don't know, Sam is a software engineer and partner at BUSHIDO Lab, Miami's blockchain firm. Sam is a technologist and community builder. He's playing his part in turning Miami into an epicenter for tech innovation and application, and he's most active in the blockchain crypto space. And so that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about. Pretty exciting, because I don't think we've actually talked with anyone that's doing blockchain or crypto on the show.
Yeah.
So this is a first for us. This is going to be cool.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, so first off, Sam, so I hear a lot of talk and people excited about crypto and, you know, the 8 million different currencies that are out right now. But then I also hear people talk about blockchain and that they're excited about blockchain. But
what's the difference?
Yeah. And so explain blockchain to us first of all.
Yeah. And it's really fuzzy. And when you first get into the industry, that's like the first thing you try and figure out is there a difference? I mean, and if there is, why? So when I first came in, I was all bullish on just blockchain, right? Like cryptos was a taboo term. I didn't really like the idea of cryptos. I didn't really understand the point of it. But blockchain kind of made sense. But as I got more involved and as I started to develop myself, I realized they're actually intertwined, and more often than not, they're kind of the same thing. So the blockchain is what Bitcoin is, the underlying technology for Bitcoin and for all cryptocurrencies. The idea of blockchain itself is now kind of separated from cryptos, but you can't have a cryptocurrency without a blockchain. You can try to have a blockchain without a cryptocurrency, but that's yet to be determined as to whether or not it works or not. So it's kind of one.
Okay, gotcha. And
so what is it that people get so excited about with blockchain? Like the possibilities of what it creates for?
Depends who you talk to. So in the beginning, 2008, 2009, I got in around late 2014, 2015. But in the beginning, it was all anarchist, right? It was a fringe of society, and frankly, it still kind of is a fringe who just had this obsession with economic freedom. They were strong libertarians. It's a very ideological kind of movement at its inception. Now when you go to events and you go to conferences, you see a lot more lawyers, a lot more business people who are trying to see how they can leverage this technology for their industry. I forgot your question.
What makes people so excited about it?
Oh, I mean, just everything really. It's just the ability now from the economic perspective. So I teach crypto economics and smart contract development at Miami-Dade. Okay. So I just finished up my first cohort. And I tried to explain to them that it excites people from an economic angle because now you have this stable form of value, right? That's defined by this network that has a very low inflation that no one can artificially change, different from fiat. So that excites one group. And the other group is excited about this idea of efficiency, of being able to trustlessly and verifiably send data and not have to have a middleman or a third party for whatever you're sending. So those are kind of the two camps. But the idea is this like new internet, is this Web 3.0. It's kind of the idea of what the internet should have been, but now we're actually building it.
That's cool. So what do you do as a blockchain firm? What does a blockchain firm do?
So we develop, so one of our projects right now, our main project is called Anon, A-N-O-N. So it's anonymous Bitcoin. The beauty about the blockchain space is that everything is open source. So this project, we're what's called forking. We're basically copying two different code bases from two different coins. In this case, Bitcoin and one coin called Z Classic. And we're combining them together, taking different elements and making a brand new coin. So that itself is called a fork when you basically copy a code base and make a new blockchain. That itself is called a hard fork. So what we do at Bushido is we develop the infrastructure for it. So right now it's all core protocol development, the consensus algorithms, the node architecture, the setup, all the the low level C++ kind of stuff. In addition to that, I do general blockchain architecture. For example, one of our clients is Tune Software. The same guys that made Recordgram. I don't know if you guys know what Recordgram. It's just an app that basically allows anyone to go in and buy a producer's beats. So it's supposed to allow anyone to have access to quality beats. They can record on top of the beat and then disseminate it. So what they wanted to do, and this is Eric Mendelsohn and DJ Blackout and Sean Mims, who did This Is Why I'm Hot, 2005.
Yeah.
So these guys are our clients now, where they want to now put that kind of on a blockchain sort of thing, where you distribute music rights on a decentralized network. So we're the tech team, pretty much. We build the infrastructure that these networks are supposed to operate on, and it's exciting.
That's amazing. From a creator standpoint, that seems really appealing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I recently heard Pitbull talking about the same thing, like that he believes that's the future of music.
Yeah, he was at Emerge.
Yeah,
and I forgot the name of the contest, but it was like Blockchain Worldwide or something. Well, along those lines.
Yeah, there was a big fancy name for it, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
There's a website and all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, how did you get into all this to begin with? Because you seem to have an interesting background with neuroscience and economics, and so how did you get into all this technology?
Yeah, it's a little crazy when you look at it. I was a journalist at the Miami Herald too, so it's like what? But yeah, so I studied economics at Chicago, right? That's where I went to school, and I was obsessed with value. I was obsessed with like we all use this this printed thing that we call money, but why do we use that, and why does that represent these things, and how does that work, and why do a bunch of people just trust it? So I was obsessed with that. The neuroscience part was, I'm kind of, someone called me this once, and I guess it's more of an insult, but it was a jack of all trades and a master of none. I definitely like the jack of all trades part. After college, I was really interested in sciences, so I wanted to get into that. So I did neuroscience research at UM. And all of that together, including the journalism, actually got me into blockchain because it's a weird kind of amalgam. It's like you have... Every day I'm reading different what are called white papers, right? These are technical research papers, which is what I was doing in neuroscience anyway. Yet I'm able to directly apply what I'm researching in real time. Like in neuroscience, I would research about a protein, for instance. We would then test it for about 6 to 8 months. It would get published, and maybe in 5 years someone would do something with it. In this case, I'm reading research from developers every day that I'm then building on right after. Now, blockchain itself and Bitcoin itself is directly tied to economics. So the economic side is just my interest and my background, so that ties in. And the journalism part, I guess, is just the day-to-day news. It's always moving. When I was at the Herald, I had to, because I was a junior writer, so I didn't have a beat necessarily. It was just, what topic is out there, you get to pick. But whatever topic I was given, I had, like 24 to 48 hours to become kind of an expert. Analyze it, and then be able to write and regurgitate that information in a digestible manner to people. So that was you had to learn quick. So all that combined, I guess is conducive to success here.
So in the Miami community, are there other companies out there doing this? Are you like a lone ranger?
Yeah. So I mean, in the crypto space in general, there aren't that many people. There just aren't that many people, which is strange to say because there are a lot of people, but proportional to everyone else, it's just not. In Miami, even less so to a certain extent, but no, they're different actors for sure. There's Kairos, for instance, who's a facial recognition company based out of Wynwood. I think they're just moving, and they did an ICO. So they use blockchain to raise funds and then build. There's a company called Apace, and I'm acquaintances now with Albert Santalo. He founded CareCloud previously. They're doing blockchain as well. We're the only blockchain tech company that's building pure protocols without a product in mind necessarily. But yeah, I mean the space is open.
That's cool. We actually had Brian on the show.
Okay.
But that was pre-ICO, so
okay.
we didn't really get a chance to talk about all that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, they were kind of pioneers because they went in. I think they did their ICO back in December and November, when it still wasn't exactly clear what regulators were going to do. So yeah, I mean it's nice to see people kind of go through the door first.
That's cool.
So in your field, what are you seeing that you're excited about?
Just the potential. I mean, it's insane how little infrastructure there is. think I watched a video where someone said it perfectly. They said that we're about in 92 or 93 of infrastructure development, if you want to make an analogy to the World Wide Web, but we're about 98 to 99 in terms of where people are thinking about what we can do with it. So there's all these amazing ideas, and it's great for me because it's a free market of ideas, so I get to see pain points in industries that I just wouldn't have known about otherwise. But at the same time, like the infrastructure just isn't there yet to build all these amazing things. So it's weird. It's really weird, but it's really interesting too.
And so with Bushido, like what is it that you're really trying to accomplish with your company?
So we are trying to play a role as being pioneers in this new industry. We understand the technology and the infrastructure well enough to be able to manipulate it and build things on top is how we feel. So right now with our client projects, we're learning and we're building a ton. So the idea kind of down the line is as we gain more experience and as we become a bigger, more mature company, this is my first company. As we become a more mature company, we would then be able to develop our own in-house products that we think would work best, for either financial transactions or to, ease some sort of interaction between people using either Bitcoin or another currency is kind of the idea.
So you said this is your first company. How far into it are you?
We started October, I think. Yeah, it's been nuts. It's been roller coaster. We started out with 2 people and now we're 6. In about 7 months or so. So it's been great.
That's
so
awesome.
the question is like greatest challenge so far up to this point, just in not necessarily in blockchain, but just in being a business owner.
Yeah, being a small business owner, a lot. So when I studied economics, for instance, I just studied economics in the liberal arts school. I didn't take any of the management or the accounting programs because I was like, I don't need this. Like, I don't need someone to teach me how to manage people. It's just stupid. No, it's just science.
Yeah.
Like Jesus Christ, it's tough. And it's not anyone's fault. It's just people are different and they have different work ethics. They have different incentive structures, which is something I work in blockchain is trying to figure out is game theory. But yeah, I mean, and not to say that anyone I've worked with is hard to work with. It's just you go. I mean, for me, from being in like an isolated lab, like a literal lab, to now being responsible for other people and products that they make. And that's complicated. The other thing, I guess, would be also developer expertise. Like it's a nascent field. So a lot of what we do is Chris and I, my partner, understand this very well. I mean, understand blockchain and just blockchain infrastructure very well. But it's a matter of onboarding people. And there's 2 real hurdles. One is kind of convincing them on crypto and blockchain, which you either understand it or you don't, or you want to understand it or you don't. And then after that, it's being able to kind of curate the developer, which isn't as easy as it sounds. So those 2 things have been the biggest struggles for us, but nothing major, really.
So do you have a process that you use to find the right people? Because I think that's an interesting you're basically asking do you believe in blockchain?
Yeah.
So how do you weed out the right people?
Yeah, and just really quick, I was watching saw a video yesterday. Silicon Valley. I watched the first season, but I haven't seen the rest. And there was a clip I saw yesterday of one of the guys with the long hair. He goes, there's only 3 things, and it's amazing because I kind of said this a couple nights ago, like this exact same thing to my friend. He goes, there's 3 things that I'll defend with absolute passion. It was medical marijuana, the biblical Satan as a metaphor against tyranny, and goddamn cryptocurrency.
So it's funny that you're talking about being thrown into this whole managing people thing. Mm-hmm. Like you go from my experience started a business is I just wanted to be the best at the thing that I was doing. And then when you start a business, you're thrown into figuring out the whole people thing. And so the interesting thing, you're talking about watching shows, and you watch all these shows. Like one of my favorite movies I watched every day for summer was Office Space. And then, watching The Office, and I would go back after being a business owner and running a business, and I go, that's me. I'm totally, I'm being Michael Scott, or and I'm like, this is not what I envisioned, but that's just part of growing into being a business owner is
I've caught myself a few times, but to answer your initial question, how we find developers for instance, it's just people that are dynamic. Really, it's not even a matter of do you know this language? It's how quickly can you learn it is the thing. And we move between projects so quickly. I mean, especially Chris. I mean, Chris is an animal in code. He jumps in and out at an insane pace. So to be able to keep up with him is tough. So we got to find people that are eager to learn, and B, are dynamic enough to learn in this environment. I mean, I called it Bushido Lab for a reason. You know, I come from a lab background. I wanted this to be an experimental laboratory, which is what it's become.
Let's talk a little bit about Bushido, because I think that's an interesting term. And before we started all this, you started to talk about it, but I think it's interesting. So,
yeah. So Bushido is the way of the warrior for the samurai. So it's a samurai warrior code. It's 8 or 9. I think it's 8 core virtues. I don't remember them off the top of my head, which I should. Chris went to Japan a couple months before we started the company, and he had this like revelatory experience. And I was always, so I have this weird thing where I believe that true innovation or true, you get to build stuff when you find the intersection between science, technology, and art is what I think. Science and tech can get you so far. Like you have the rigor and testing of science. You have the innovation of technology, but then you have the creativity and frankly the audacity of the actual arts. And I think when you have when you are able to make that combination, then you really start to create things. Francis Crick, for instance, who developed the structure of our DNA, he basically found it while tripping on acid, pretty much. Now, granted, he had an incredible analytical background beforehand. I mean, it's not like he just did it and discovered DNA. But it's the idea that you need to kind of drop down your borders for a second, or your blinders for a second, because especially us, man, we're so stuck in the terminal and code all day that you forget kind of what's out there. So when I looked at Japanese art, I saw that it was incredibly intricate yet also very fluid, and it seemed like it had gone through kind of like a trial and error phase throughout its course. So that also spoke to me a lot as well. That's why I wanted a Japanese theme, or as close to that as possible. Yeah.
So are you able to talk about some of the projects that you guys have built?
Yeah, so I mean the two main ones that we're currently doing are Anonymous Bitcoin and Tune, like I had said earlier. But Tune, I think, is finishing up their ICO round now. So that's initial coin offering or token generation event, whatever. They're finishing that up now. And then Anonymous, we're forking on September 10th. So we're building out the actual pipeline now for it.
So what's the tell me about the value of Anonymous over like regular?
Yeah, so Bitcoin isn't private. People assume you have anonymity, but you don't. And there are different measures that you can take within Bitcoin to actually be anonymous, like using a different address every time you send or receive funds, for instance. But we didn't really think that was enough, and we thought from at least a layer 1 infrastructure, there should be some sort of anonymity protocol. Now, there are other coins that have done that, right? There's one called Zcash, there's one called Zclassic, which was a fork of, so when I say fork, it's a copy. So it was a fork of Zcash. So we looked at the landscape, and we decided, well, it'd be great if we can actually take the marketing advantage that Bitcoin has because it's known so well, but also combine that with another coin that has the tech features that we want. So Zclassic has what are called zero knowledge proofs. ZK Snarks developed at MIT. So the way it works is if you and I are sending money and you're sending it to me, you would have a one-time sending address, I would have a one-time recipient address, and the amount would be encrypted every single time. So no one would know who's sending whom to whom or how much. The other thing that we did, and this is more me from an economic standpoint, was we set up something called master nodes. There's a coin called Dash that also has this, and I believe Zencash has a similar structure. Where basically you put in a staking amount, you put in a collateral amount, and you become a validator that gets a percentage return based on the blocks that are mined. So now you have a financial reason to be part of the network, not just an altruistic one necessarily. So that was kind of the tech justification for it.
That's cool. So you're taking like all your favorite features from all the different Bitcoins, crypto, I should say, and you're combining it to make like a master.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the idea. We're taking everything we think works best in conjunction with coins that already have mass adoption, and trying to make one that we think will work best. Like I don't foresee this necessarily replacing Bitcoin. I see it working alongside of Bitcoin for people that really want and need financial freedom, which is what this is for.
That's awesome. So the question is, when you launch this out into the world, like how does a company like yours make money off of something that is essentially
open source and out in the public? Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing. This is a client project. Someone came to us and asked us to build this for them. But there isn't a corporation. There isn't any sort of thing set up because this is open source. I mean, you can't have a company run a public blockchain cryptocurrency, right? I wasn't even looking at the money side of it. Chris handles all the contracts and stuff. So we don't directly make any money off the actual coin or the currency. We don't hold the underlying asset. There isn't anything that we have for it. This is just a project for us. But we're passionate in making it sustainable so people can actually use it.
It must be that head injury, huh? So for people that are trying to get into blockchain technology, coding, from actually working with the code to create amazing new things, what advice would you have for them?
Well, if you have software just developer experience, it'll be easier for you to make the jump in. So I guess I'll speak to two different groups here, but the first one for the developers, Ethereum is probably the easiest platform to look at or to get started, right? That's how a lot of my developers got started. They have a very easy scripting language called Solidity, where all the ICOs pretty much write their coins and their smart contracts on Ethereum because it's so simple. We actually had a project back in November or December when we launched the company called Kim Jong Crypto. And I can show you guys on Instagram. Basically, what happened was Ethereum. So when you do an ICO, there's something called ERC20. That's the name of the protocol. ERC20 is a fungible protocol. Do you know what fungibility is?
Tell us
So fungibility is the idea that you've got $1, and that can be split up into 100 pennies, and each penny is of equal value. There's no difference, right? So it's fungible. So they made another protocol that wasn't fungible called ERC 721. And what this basically was, what this meant was that you have a token and you can't split it. It's just a unique token. That was valuable because then people started to tie a unique token to a unique piece of art at first. So now, you can prove that you own this piece of art through this token, and you can check its provenance, when it started, how many times it changed hands, who it changed hands to, because it's a public blockchain. So something came out called CryptoKitties, which literally was just pictures of cats on Ethereum's blockchain. It was just an application that had these cartoon pictures of cats. In 4 weeks, $12 million was transferred over these cats. $12 million over these ridiculous looking cats. And it almost actually crashed the Ethereum network. And each cat was a unique token. And people value digital scarcity is the message that I got from that. Because I was like, these cats don't have any kind of inherent worth. So we saw that and we wanted to do something similar. And I used to be very political, so it's still in the back of my head. So I was like, dude, we need to. Kim's already a meme online. This will go viral. So I'm very focused on community in Miami. Like I said, I'm from here. So we worked at the lab at the time. That's where we just moved from the lab across the street. But that's where we started all of this. And so Brian, who's one of the guys that works at the lab, he made the assets for us, and I'll try and show you guys the different Kim cards. So we made a generator that mashes all the different. He made 30 different eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. We made a generator that mashes it together, so we get a unique Kim every time. And yeah, those were all ERC 721 tokens on Ethereum's network, and we basically put Kim Jong on the blockchain. That's kind of the whole idea. Yeah, these are the different. Let's scroll through.
Wow. That's cool. And was that just? And there's the punchline's not that there was $12 or $18 million
for us
from that.
No,
not yet.
No. Unfortunately or fortunately, no. No, that was just that was an internal project that we did kind of over a couple weekends because we wanted to see is it gonna get any kind of traffic, and B, it was fun. It was really fun to do, and it was blockchain enabled too. And I think digital art or just art in general on blockchain is probably the most realistic application of it outside of network infrastructure stuff immediately.
So for that second group of people that aren't young, the younger or the people that are trying to pivot in their careers and get into coding and possibly into blockchain, what advice would you have for them?
So there's a few resources, right? There's CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, CCN. Those are different websites that you can look at. They're very good about disseminating pretty good information about blockchain and Bitcoin. But I would try and make sure that you understand how and why Bitcoin works in the first place, because that's the first one and it's a good starting point. And these are for tech and non-tech people. People that I still speak to in the space who've been in here for a while, and you have, pretty established companies that are using or trying to use blockchain, some of them still don't understand why Bitcoin works. And that's a fundamental thing. If you don't understand the mining and validation process and just what the point of it is, then you just can't really get much out of it, or you can't really do much. outside of it afterwards. You're going to start thinking of crazy ideas that won't work. So I would definitely try and become as well versed in Bitcoin. The Bitcoin white paper is easy enough to read. It's a tech white paper, but it's not that technical. There's a big learning curve. I've spoken to lawyers who I've spent a lot of time talking to lawyers about this, and I spoke to one lawyer who said, I've been in this field for 4 years now, and still, I mean, I get it, and he does get it, but he's like, still, there's so much more to understand from what's already been built.
Wow. So when you look out into the future, like what does what opportunities do you see that can come out of a more advanced blockchain and integration of blockchain?
There's so much, and this is kind of cliche at this point too, but it's the idea that the best applications we haven't even thought of. This uses the internet, but it's not like the internet. Remember, and to reiterate again, like the people that made this were ideological in nature, libertarians, who wanted a genuine store of value. I mean, and I'll give you a quick just economics here. 1971, we went off the gold standard, and that kind of changed everything. We were gold backed before. We never really had the reserves required to actually justify having a gold backed currency. But that all changed, and now we have this money. I mean, really, the U.S. dollar. I don't know what I'm giving people anymore. The U.S. dollar it's a currency that is controlled by 9 to 12 people that weren't elected, that we don't elect, who arbitrarily try and manipulate the economy when they see fit. Right? I'm not saying they're bad actors, but there's still a group of people, and groups of people do terrible things all the time. Good things too. But that's a problem. So we're trusting this thing that isn't worth anything. It's only a trust in the U.S. government. Bitcoin's different because you can trust the network and the protocol, and you can vet it too. I mean, it's open source, and the developers, everything is on forums. You can read everything they're doing, what they're about to do, what they're even thinking of doing too. So you can trust in this actual network, and it's something that has a slow supply growth. I mean, gold was valuable over time because it was hard to make gold. Like people couldn't make more gold. That's one of the problems with things that are adopted as currencies. They have the I think it's called a money trap problem, where when something is valuable, people try to make more of it. They do end up making more of it, and then it's just not worth anything anymore. You can't do that with gold. You can't do that with Bitcoin. So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. So you mentioned something earlier about like being a big fan of the community in Miami. And this is kind of a shift into different gears, but what kind of possibilities do you see for helping the community or building the community in Miami?
So I was raised here. I was raised in the Gables. Went to Blunt for high school. Spent some time at UM. Wrote for the Miami Herald. So I'm from Miami, and I hated this place growing up. I absolutely hated this city, which is why I left to Chicago. I didn't think there was much going on. There didn't really seem to be any sort of viable industry outside of hospitality and healthcare. But then I came back from college and I saw all this. I saw the CIC. I saw the fact that we're building from downtown north. To me, and this may sound ridiculous, but it kind of looks like what I would imagine New York to have looked like in the 60s, sort of thing. So I think we're making a new Miami, right? I mean, we had immigrants build it in the 50s and 60s. We had cocaine build it in the 80s. I'm hoping crypto can help build it now, and more sustainably. So things that we do, we have smart contract workshops here once a month. We're involved with different schools. There's a really cool school down in Wynwood called Learn 01, run by Nelson and a guy called Willie, and they're amazing. They have like 12-year-old kids building Windows servers. So we go and help them on crypto stuff when they're doing that kind of class. I'm really focused on education. I think it's huge. And I think I put in the email as well, like a more educated community is a more successful one. I really do believe that. So community wise, like I see, like I'm a builder is what I realized, what I found out about myself. So I have an opportunity now to play a pivotal role in really building a new city is kind of the way I see it.
That's amazing. So how can people help that are listening, that are local, that are looking to help build that new city as well?
Man, get involved here. There's the Beacon Council, Venture Cafe, CIC. I'm trying to think of other. I mean, there's Code for Miami, for instance, which is an amazing program for developers to build, city projects. I guess meet people, and that's kind of the strange thing with being in code too, is that you're on forums all the time, you're on Reddit, you're on Discord, but sometimes you forget the value of actually like human interaction, right? Like talking to someone face to face. It's huge, and that's why we've gotten so far as a company, because I spent a lot of time just talking to people kind of, and not even trying to sell them, but just telling them what I know, what I think we should do. And because of that, we got more attention. And so I would say just come to Venture Cafe on Thursdays. First off, like this is really where it's starting to happen. Just like get out of your house.
Well, tell us where can people connect with you? How can they find you?
Well, you can email me Sam at BUSHIDOLab.com, BUSHIDO Lab. So I don't have a personal I'm terrible at social media. Like I'm like awful. I have a Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Sam Abbassi, 2 B's and 2 S's. But I don't really tweet that much. I don't have a personal Instagram, but we have a company Instagram and a Kim John Crypto Instagram. So Kim John Crypto might be the most entertaining thing to follow, actually. It's at Kim J Crypto. And our company one is at Bushido Lab. But we're going to start, posting more stuff so people can see it. But LinkedIn's also a great resource. That's where I post the most, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Awesome. Well, Sam, this has been fun. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
For more episodes, visit innovationcity.co. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And if you're in Miami, visit us on Thursday nights. Details are at venturecafemiami.org. And be sure to connect with us on social at We Are Slam and at Venture Cafe MIA. Thanks for listening.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome